Hopefully. What is up? What is up, everybody? It is me, Mike Vanderpool. I am a designer, doer of all kinds of fun things here. It's me, Mike Vanderpool. There we go. And it is 10 o'clock, and we are going to be working on a course here. And I'm going to go ahead and, because I didn't do it earlier on, I have to do it now. Create a little thumbnail here, screen for us that will be used on the Twitter, and it will also be used on will also be used on other programs. We'll use it also for the break screen here. So go ahead and just create this design. We'll create a YouTube thumbnail. I suppose I can go ahead and share my screen here so that y'all can kind of follow along. I'll get this thing started rocking and rolling. It will be an adventure today, to say the least, with this class. I've delivered it multiple times, but this time we're going to try to do something maybe just a little bit different here. There we go. Let's do this. Zoom out just a skosh. So Anthony Wayne, Innovation and Design. We'll put that logo down in the lower corner here. We'll come in here, we'll put some text in. Taking a break. Welcome to Introduction to Coding Bootcamps. And then we'll go ahead here, and then we will actually say, we'll have another text box here that says, taking a break. We will be back shortly. So this is going to be a lot of conversation, a lot of stuff around the horn. Who knows exactly how this whole thing is going to shake out. Every time I do this, it ends up being just a little bit different because I try to incorporate some stuff from the last time. But there we go. We can always then present that. And that's down and dirty, nothing too crazy, right? Enough to get the point across, which is all we really need to get started here. So we'll stop sharing for right now. All right, Mike Vanderpool here at the Toledo Tech Loft, downtown Toledo, Ohio. Phenomenal place. The space, I could do a little preview of the space here if you'd actually really want to see it. I will be running multiple classes out of this space. We will be doing them face-to-face, and we'll also be streaming like this. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, the chat's open. I'll be fairly cognizant of the chat as we move forward. So this class, Introduction to Coding Bootcamps, we can bring up the syllabus here. I can show you what that looks like. We'll talk through the syllabus real quick, and then I'll go through and introduce myself and my background and why I'm qualified to actually teach this stuff. So here we go. Introduction to Coding Bootcamps. We're going to explore web development and digital organization. It's really designed to give you the foundational skills that you'll need, both technically and emotionally, intellectually, to move forward with a coding bootcamp or honestly, any learning experience inside of technology. Coding bootcamps, I've been involved with them for about 10 years, so I've got lots of thoughts. The coding bootcamp space is definitely an interesting one to talk about, but for right now, we're just going to make the assumption that that's our focus, right? Your focus is that you're going to lay a foundation here that's going to help you when you move into some type of learning experience about technology, design, innovation. So, core topics will include organization of files, developing web pages, basically information architecture that will help you in no matter what kind of career that you've got. So the first thing that we're going to do is we'll set up an effective work environment. We'll go through and talk about using naming conventions as part of that. I'll talk about best practices for organizing files in the digital environment. We'll work through version control, and that will be really our introduction to GitHub, which is a tool that many developers use. We're going to then, as part of this, we'll design a web page that will be practical application of the stuff that we talked about previously. We'll explain the relationship. We'll design a web page, and then we'll develop the web page. Two separate sides of the equation here. We'll also then get into some of these coding languages, HTML, which is the content of a web page, and CSS is the way it looks. We'll also play a little bit with JavaScript, potentially if we get there. We'll talk about flow control. We probably don't do anything with flow control. Um, that might be fair to say, maybe not. GitHub, VS Code, all technical tools that we're going to use. And how this works out, I have no clue. But during our lunch break, I am going to go ahead and discuss how to be successful in a boot camp experience. So that's really it for today. So we're going to start here with introducing myself. So we should probably do that here. Let's do it with LinkedIn, right? That might make sense. If we looked at my LinkedIn account. All right. Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Do, 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 do. There we go. There we go. So I am Mike Vanderpool, a lifelong learner. Start over. Power of editing. Oh, and hey, messages. Go away, messages. Nobody wants to see what I'm talking to. I am Mike Vanderpool. I'm a lifelong learner with a passion for helping people and learn and grow. I graduated with a Master's of Instructional Design. Basically, it's Master's of Education in Learning, Design, and Technology, but how to build curriculum from Bowling Green State University. My undergrad is from Oakland University up in Rochester Hills, Michigan, where I took a lot of English classes, have a degree in English, and was fortunate enough that many of those classes were film classes. A lot of old professors who dug film, so I got to write about movies a lot, which was awesome. So I live in Toledo or near Toledo, Ohio. That's where I'm at the Tech Loft here. Go down into some of the stuff I'm into, right? I mess around with AI. I love looking at new technology. I'm always kind of what do they call it? First mover into that space with playing with stuff, exploring it. I also do a lot of video work. I'm a streamer. I'm a YouTube streamer. I've got some stuff going on over there as I try to figure that out. I will be doing a course eventually here on how to stream. I'll also be doing a course in 2 weeks on building an album using AI. My experience. So right now I am a assistant professor at Defiance College. I teach graphic design, a lot of visual communication, media, digital media, uh, along with how to actually get projects done. Not just the technical part of using like the Adobe suite, but just how to the structure for how to the design thinking process. That's the best way to say it. The design thinking process. How do we take an idea and turn it into a reality? I'm also the founder here of Anthony Wayne Innovation and Design. This is kind of a catch-all company for a lot of the stuff that I do in this space. Delivering classes, one of the primary foundational pieces of the puzzle here. I was the director of curriculum instruction over at Stage 3 Talent. I was basically the architect of building curriculum for software development, for data analytics, data engineering, also some cloud curriculum. So I've been in that space for quite a long time for a bunch of different companies. A lot of the stuff you're not even going to see here because I was doing contract work for them. But that's the last one of the last places I was doing curriculum instruction as a full-time employee, I should say. I was also the lead faculty over at Northwest State. I taught visual communication over there for 7.5 years. Web design, concepts of visual communication, videography, photography, all that kind of good stuff. I was also a design thinker when they opened the Collab Lab at BG. I was an instructional coach at the Software Guild. That's when I kind of hopped onto this coding bootcamp craze. I was hired there to help their software developers become better teachers. That led me into the curriculum development, which kind of puts me in a position now where I'm able to deliver courses like this because of the experience I've had that you see here and the experience that you don't see. I work for the largest coding bootcamp company in the world, who was basically the content source for a lot of the coding boot camps that you would have taken at like a university like Ohio State and some other places like that. As a graduate assistant, I've been a director of online marketing. I've producer of my own company when I lived down in Florida. Um, quite a few other things. I mean, that just goes back to 2004. I actually graduated in 1994, so 10 years in there. I did a whole bunch of different stuff, a lot of different industries. Out of college, I ended up working in the automotive industry, kind of fell into electrical engineering, worked in the hospitality industry, delivered pizzas. I've helped people open pizzerias. I'm kind of a jerk of all trades when it comes to doing things, which is where I think I have some success with teaching classes like this, because I'm able to bring in a whole bunch of different experience into it. Because when we think about software, and this is where we're going to kind of get started here, When we think about building software or building websites or really designing anything, design, innovation, development are all things that support other industries. Very rarely are you going to design something for design, maybe for a design conference, right? Or very rarely are you going to build software for software, other than what we could see here, kind of with we'll talk about with GitHub, which is a solution like that. But for the most part, right, you're building content, you're building an application, you're building a product for either a company or a consumer. And that may be selling pizzas, that may be selling widgets, that may be booking reservations at a restaurant, right? All of these things that we do here in this space serve other industries, which is awesome because what we see in this space is, and the original programmers, they were some of the people who knew the business side and just came in and learned the programming side. So what's great for a lot of folks out there is maybe you want to make a career change, maybe you've thought about the software stuff, whatever. I'm almost 1000% guaranteed that the industry that you're in has a whole bunch of software inside of it and people that are building that software, maintaining that software. I bet you there's a whole bunch of people that are designing cool things. All of these experiences that you've had working can benefit you in a transition into some type of software development design type job. So, all right, all right. So that's me. So let's go ahead here and take a look at the first thing. So setting up an effective work environment. Can we do this? Can we actually just build a presentation here? Might as well, right? So I'm going to go ahead and file, and I'm going to create a new. Let's just go back out to Google Drive here, right? Can I go over to Google Drive from here? We'll do this. Well, we'll need that one. We can get rid of this. So drive.google.com. We're going to create a new presentation here, and this will work for us as we move forward. We're going to go ahead and give this presentation a title. Uh, naming things, right? So we're actually probably going to have, if I share my screen here, what we're going to have right now is we're going to have 2 or 3 of these bullet points kind of come together. The setting up an effective work environment, using naming conventions, and explaining best practices of how organize files in a digital environment, and also explaining version control. These first 4 here, let's just copy paste those. Those will honestly be the first 4 pieces of the puzzle here, and we'll just call this, this is our getting started. What's the name of this presentation, right? Introduction to Coding Bootcamps. Sure, that's a little narrow. Introduction to Design and Technology might be a better name. Although the word technology is so whack, right? Like, what does technology mean? Like, even technology inside of STEM, the phrase that we see all over the place, right? There's technology in science, there's technology in engineering, there's technology in math. I mean, it's such a weird word and how we use it, because just like design, technology very rarely lives on its own. So this is what this is. This is a puzzle piece that fits into anything and everything you're ever probably going to do outside of just pushing a lawnmower or pressing buttons at a factory. Not that there's anything wrong with those professions, but it's just different, right? So let's talk about setting up an effective work environment and using naming conventions all kind of together here. And if I want to name this file Introduction to Design and Technology, we will probably want to be able to find this later on. So one of the things we have to think about when we name things, and I just named this up in the upper left corner here, we need to start thinking about our users. That is a fundamental principle here of design and designing anything, is thinking about the user. How are people going to use what we're building? And a really important piece of this that people often overlook, I see a lot of new young students overlook, is the fact that one of the users of this is probably your future self. There may be a time when you need to reference back and find this, and how are you going to find it? You'll usually do it through a search. The way that search works is it looks at the names and it looks at the content. So by you naming a file correctly in a way that you or another person might think about it, that's much more likely then that they're going to be able to find it. So what is this that we're making? Let's think about that, right? What is this that we're making? Well, it's a presentation for this course. And the name of the course is Introduction to Design and Technology. And you know what? Because I call this course also Coding Bootcamps, Introduction to Coding Bootcamps, we're going to add that into the title as well. Introduction to Design and Technology, Coding Bootcamps. Whether or not we put the slash in the file name, that's something we can talk about later, but let's just do this. Let's just go ahead and put a dash in the file name. We'll see why that matters later on. But Introduction to Design Technology Coding Bootcamps, that isn't as clear as to what this is, right? What this is, it's a course presentation. And I'm using the colon there as a separator. It's a course presentation. So what it is, and then in a wider sense, and then be more specific. Why do we put what it is first, and then what's related to second? Lots of different trains of thought here, but one of the things that I've learned studying kind of accessibility is you want to put the bucket that it's in up front first as part of the search. Because we always read in Western civilization, in the United States here, we always read, left to right. So my eyes are automatically going to be over on the left side when we start. So I'm looking for the course presentation. It may be a big, huge, long list. I just skim down that left side and I find course presentation. Sweet, I can look over. Sweet, I can look over. Sweet, I can look over and see exactly what it relates to. So if I search for course presentation, this will come up. If I search for Introduction to Design and Technology, this will come up. If I search for Introduction to Coding Bootcamps or just Coding Bootcamps, it will come up. If I search for Course, Design and Technology, Course, Coding Bootcamps, Presentation, Design and Technology, Presentation Bootcamps, this will come up. And this is a foundational piece to number 2 here, using naming conventions. Vanderpool's rule. You should never have to open a folder or a file to know what is in it. It's a dream and not always possible, especially when we get into some software development spaces where, is that entirely true to say? I'm just going to say this. As much as possible, when you are creating a folder or a file, if you name the file correctly, where you do not have to open it to know what's inside of it, you will save yourself time, and time is money. Other naming convention things that we'll talk about here is do not use underscores in file names. Now, why not? Well, it's simple. If I have a file name, file underscore name dot, let's just say it's an HTML file, and that file ends up becoming a link. By default, a lot of links are underlined, and if we underline this, guess what happens? Our underscore goes away and becomes a little bit invisible here, right? Now, us with maybe 2020-ish vision, we can maybe make out that there's a double line there. But part of what we have to do is design for people who may not have perfect vision. We're designing also for people who may not be able to see at all, right? There's this principle of universal design. And in this scenario here, even people with perfect vision may struggle to see this. So what we'll want to do instead is to do something like this, file-name.html. Because not every link that we're going to see here is actually going to be clickable. Sometimes you're going to print out a document and you would have that URL there, and somebody might actually have to just type that in to get there. By making sure that we're using a dash instead of an underscore, we're better able to communicate to a potential user on what they should do. That will save them frustration and save them time and keep them more likely to be engaged with what you've got going on. Right? Frustration is the thing that we use to shut the door and leave. We want to minimize frustration as much as possible when people are working with whatever it is that we're providing to them. Another thing when we'll see this more in the HTML, CSS side of stuff, but sometimes you'll see something like this in a browser, file %20 name.html. That is a space in folder and file names. Spaces are a very interesting animal when it comes to coding and languages. And one of the things that happens is there are different character sets, different identifiers for um, characters that sometimes get, what's the best way to say it, are used for a variety of purposes. So sometimes you will see up in an address bar along the top here, right? That's the address bar. Sometimes you'll see that %20. And what that means is that there's a space in the file name. This is also somewhat harder to read sometimes. So that is why we do not recommend using the file, a space in the file name. Instead, use a dash. And we'll do something like that. And then we can get rid of this underlining. Command or Control U are your hotkeys. One of the things you're going to want to do as you start to become uh, more comfortable with what you're doing is you're definitely going to want to lean into using the hotkeys or copy, pasting, all that kind of good stuff, which we'll go through that as we need them. So if you follow these basic rules here, I think you're going to be pretty happy. I think you'll be able to search and find what you need, and then your content will be more accessible for a wider variety of people, which is inevitably what you want to do here. So setting up a work environment, we kind of skipped that one. Let's go ahead and throw that one in here. What do we mean by a work environment? Well, we really have two separate pieces of this puzzle, right? We have our physical environment where we're working, and then we also have our digital environment where we're working. For those of you that are about to take a coding boot camp, or maybe working from home, or working, in a tech collaborative space like I'm at, co-working space like I'm at right now at the Toledo Tech Loft, you may end up. That's the best way to say this. At the very best, you have an office, right? A home office, a dedicated space to the co-working spot, uh, your own desk, right? Keep your workspace clutter free. If you have a phone, best advice is to turn it over and or get rid of it completely, because even when it's turned over, your peripheral vision, you still know it's there and it's still begging you to look at it, right? The other thing that you want to be conscious of is distractions just outside of the phone. Here's a window. It might be nice to look out at and reset your eyes and kind of adjust. Uh, but it also, if you're looking out in a place where there's a lot of stuff going on, distraction, it may be too much. But ideally, when you sit down to work, the best advice that I'm going to give you is that you organize your space first, your physical space. Throw the trash away, straighten up your stacks of papers, put your mouse over here, use your scissors last night, put those away, put your pens, get your workspace clean. So have a clean workspace. Now, I know for some folks, especially people learning online, you may not have that, man. You may be home and there may be people walking in the background. I've worked with students, and it's sometimes a little not uncomfortable, but it's a little interesting, right? The students in their bedroom, sitting on their bed taking classes, you can see like everything that's in their room. Not necessarily going to be ideal for high intensity learning environment like a coding boot camp, right? If you don't have a dedicated space, or your space is kind of a shared space, headphones. Noise canceling headphones are great. I know they're expensive, but I think they're definitely worth the investment, because these noise canceling headphones, I've got the Sony's. They're kind of expensive. They do a phenomenal job of eliminating distractions. I work at home with a wife, a dog, a cat, 3 kids, people coming in and out. My son's jumping all over the place, and having that these ear canceling headphones on allows me to work like that, because I have an office, a little desk like this that I work at, but it's also down in the basement. And sometimes I like to move around. I'll go sit on the couch and work. Um, if, let's say, you don't have a space and you're going to use the kitchen table, here's what I'm going to suggest. Again, just like your desk, make sure you have a clean area. Wipe it down. Get yourself a glass of water so you don't have to get up, right? Kind of go through and just start to establish a routine for what you're going to do to get involved in the space, right? Establish a routine. Let's see here. We'll go ahead and put some more bullets in. Wipe, remove clutter. You want to get rid of the clutter as much as possible. Wipe it down if it's a kitchen table or something else like that. Get yourself a glass of water. Water's quite possibly the best thing that you can do, and hide your phone. Hide your phone. Those things right there, I think, can. Let's see. We're going to do this a little bit differently. Set up a workspace here. We're going to come in here, and we're going to go into a section header, and that section header here will take this, set up a workspace, and then because again we did talk about having two separate workspaces, we'll call this one set up your physical environment. Sweet. And then the next one, we're going to go ahead and set up your digital environment. This one is super important. Why? Because computers can get cluttered and messy with where you have files. But the number one reason for us as we move into a design space, as we move into a development space, is that a lot of the time when we're creating files, those files need to be able to find each other. They also need to be grouped in folders, and there's specific structures that we use in order to be able to work and collaborate with a team. So setting up your digital work environment can help you as a learner, right? Let's say I'm in this boot camp space or I'm in this instructional space, like at a college, and I'm taking maybe 3 or 4 classes, or I'm in a boot camp, but I'm also juggling life and everything else. The more frustration that you can remove from the external part of the learning, the more cognitive energy you're going to have to be able to put into the learning. So if we think about the digital environment and the time it takes sometimes to find things, if we have a cluttered mess on our desktop or in our folders, I think you can kind of maybe understand why it's important for us to have this clean workspace. So for us, create a folder for your work inside of your documents folder. Now, it does not have to be in your documents folder, but that's just the place. If you have no other place to put it, just start there, because the documents folder is for documents. So if I come over here and if I look at, can I get rid of that thing? If I look at my Finder here, I use a Mac, so I've got Finder. If I look at my documents, you can see here I've got some stuff. I do some work for some people, lots of things going on here. Here's the design stuff I use, letter recommendations, blah, 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 a whole bunch of fun stuff. There's some web projects. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a new folder specifically for my learning. Learning, just in general. That's my learning folder. You'll notice I have a underscore in front of some of these folders. I'm breaking with the naming convention there a little bit, right? But putting an underscore in front of this folder here will actually make it rise up to the top. I bet you I could do that with dashes too. Let's see if I could do dashes. Maybe that'd be a better way to do this. There we go. We can use dashes. I like the dashes better. And there we go. See, and now what you'll see in this design folder here, right? I teach a variety of classes. Here's 3 of the classes that I teach. And those are some of the demonstrations that I was doing there. So here's my learning folder. And now I'm going to create a subfolder in here, and I'm going to put the name of the course. So I will type course. And again, I like to use the front part of a file name as kind of like an icon. This is when I studied accessibility. I kind of picked this whole thing up. Course Intro to Coding Bootcamps. So now every single thing that I do, oops, I think, yeah, it's because you can't put the colon in there. And that's another problem that we want to be conscious of within your file names, like within your Google folders and other stuff like that that we'll talk about, right? So it's going to be course dash, we don't need the space, introduction to coding bootcamps. Now, what'll be fun here is because I used course, if I come in and create another folder called course, and maybe this course will be for next week, course, create, I'll see how I can't spell, an AI, create an album, a music album, because there's different types of albums, right? Music album using AI. Now we'll see here these courses start to group together. Now, maybe, potentially, why is that not charging? That's interesting. We'll have to figure out how we're going to charge this during the break here. It's kind of interesting. Why was that not charging? We'll see. We'll be doing a break about every 45 to 50 minutes. So give me another 15 minutes, folks, and we'll take a break. So here we go. Of course, some people might come in here and go ahead and, I'm going to create a folder called course, and then we'll put all my courses inside of this. Why can't I just change the name? Come on, Mac. Quit being so weird. Right? Here's my folder courses, and then I pull these in here. Okay, I get that and understand that, but we only really need to create new folders. What in the world is going on here? We only really need to create new folders when we have a lot of information that we need to sort. Like if I've got 5 things, I don't necessarily need to put them into buckets because they'll all fit nicely in one bucket and I can find what I need. Think about how what this is replacing, what this desktop here is replacing. It's replacing like your desktop at home or your file cabinets at home. And how we organize things in those environments is really the same here. If I am going to, again, the whole goal is to be able to find things. And if I just go ahead here and I've got things that are named courses, course, maybe I end up having some project, whatever it might be. But at least for right now, until I get maybe 10 plus courses in here, heck, even more than that, I really don't think I need to throw these into a courses folder because what that's doing, fundamental principle here is we're having to click more times to get what we need. Clicking more time, that's just more time. We want to be as efficient as possible throughout this process, removing the number of steps to get there. Why is this not? This thing isn't working, but it's plugged into the wall. Give me a second, folks. My charging station here is a little whacked out. Technology. Another fundamental principle when using technology: do not expect everything to work like it should. You'll have to reboot your computer. You'll have to find a new outlet. You may have to order a new part. All kinds of fun stuff here. Uh-oh. Is this charger not working? We may be DOA, folks. Why is this not charging? Is it this cord? All right, I'm going to take a quick break, folks. I'll be right back. I gotta go solve this cord issue here. All right, folks. So we are back at it. I actually had to move locations because the outlets along one of the walls wasn't working. The other ones were fine. Not sure exactly why that one wasn't working. It's probably switched somewhere. It's probably another fundamental technology and design principle here. 99% of the time, it's user error. 99% of the time, it's user error. But you have to be nice to the users because the computers won't yell back at you, but the people will. All right. So let's go ahead here and we'll go back and present, kind of do a recap of how we got to now, and then we'll continue moving forward. All right. So we're talking about setting up an effective work environment. We talked about how that was physical space, right? The space that you're in. We talked about naming conventions, and now we're actually moving into this whole how to uh, organize files in a digital environment. And we were looking at, I believe, the folder structure here. So under my documents, I created a folder called learning, and then I have course here, courses here. And inside of this folders, this is where we're going to put the information that we need for this specific course. Now, one of the most wonderful things that we have to us available to us today is using documents in the cloud, hence something like a Google Docs, right? Google Drive. So Google Drive has Docs, which are like Microsoft Doc, or I'm sorry, Microsoft Word. You've got Google Sheets, which is like Excel. You've got Slides, which is like PowerPoints. You've got Vids, Forms, all these other Google pieces. I lean heavily into the Google side of things because education seems to be more aligned with Google, but you can do this exact same thing with Microsoft and OneDrive. I know business data folks, IT typically prefer Microsoft. At the end of the day, all we are doing is we're storing files. We're storing files outside of our local machine, our local computer. Because what happens if our files, we lose our computer, our file, or our hard drive crashes, something like that, and we only have something stored in one place? You lose it forever. You don't have access to it only if you have this thing in front of you. The wonderful part about the cloud, and we're not going to talk about what the cloud actually is in this class, but what's nice about having the files on servers all over the world is that you're able to access them all over the world. Availability, high availability is a fundamental principle of cloud computing. So I can access the same files from my phone, from my computer here. I lose this computer, I don't have access to my phone. I need to get something, I can go on my friend's computer and still get to it as long as I have the login credentials to do that. So for a lot of what you're going to do inside of a coding bootcamp, you're going to store your files in something called GitHub, which we'll be showcasing later. But GitHub is the exact same thing. It's just a group of servers somewhere that you connect into via the internet to store your files, and you can work back and forth. Now, GitHub is pretty cool because, and you can do this with Google Drive and other platforms as well, you can have a copy of the files on the server and then also on your local computer. Having them on your local computer, they're easier to access, faster to access. And then there's programs like Git, which is what the software that GitHub uses uh, to be able to keep those things in sync. So what you have on your local computer is the same that's what's up in the server on servers in the cloud. We don't need to go too deep yet on that one, but just know what we're talking about here with how you organize your files is the same way you organize them to be able to find what you need inside of a physical file folder environment is the same as how you would organize them in a digital environment on your local computer, which is also the same as you'd want to organize them in your in the cloud, especially because the cloud and local end up becoming just synchronized anyway. So when we talk about the grouping of things, the best metaphor or example I can use is really like the kitchen. The kitchen is you've got a refrigerator that stores things that you want to keep cold. You've got your freezer, which is where you want to keep frozen things. You've got your cupboard where you keep like your dry goods, like your cereal. You've got your cupboard where you keep your pots and pans. You've got your drawers where you keep your silverware. Those are the big buckets, right? Those are the big top level folders. Well, actually, the top level folder here, let's just draw this out. Let's see what this actually looks like. This will be fun. I'm going to introduce you to a whole bunch of tools here that I use, that I like. I'm going to introduce you. Well, let's actually keep this. Let's keep this really, really clean. Let's keep this clean. Let's do this the right way, right? Part of what I'm doing here is I'm going to show you how I do things, and not that how I do things is the right way, but it's served me pretty well here. So I'm going to go over here, and I've got this course presentation. We're talking about create a folder if you work inside of your documents folder, stuff like that. Let's go ahead and think of it. Think of it like a kitchen. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead here, and I'm going to create a new folder. And this new folder, guess what I'm going to call it? I'm going to call it Dash Learning. Why? Because at some point, I'll want to have it synced with what's on my local computer. So I'll use the same naming convention here. So create Dash Learning. There we go, there we go. You'll see I do rely a little heavily on underscores for some of this stuff. We'll click in here. And now we've got this course, Introduction to Coding Bootcamps. What I can do here is I'm just going to go ahead and new folder, upload. And I'm just going to upload, new folder, upload. And I'm just going to go into Documents, Learning, and I'll just upload this folder. Even though there's nothing there, eventually we're going to want these folders to sync together. Did that not come up? New folder, upload, upload. Yes, upload. Well, that's weird. That's not working. So we'll just create the course. New folder, course, introduction, introduction to coding boot camps. Good enough. Create. What in the heck? New folder, course, introduction to coding boot camps. Create. There we go. There it is. All right. So this course presentation, Introduction to Design and Technology, now lives in a folder way outside of this. Let's go ahead and move this right now. So File, Move, and then we can navigate here. What's nice is Google gives us a recommendation based on stuff we just created. We're going to move this folder, this presentation. And now if I open this thing up, here we go. Sweet, sweet, sweet. So now we're going to create a document. And this document is going to be file, folder. Well, we should name it probably more along the lines of setting up your digital environment. We'll actually name this the same. That way we can find them, they're related. If I put, this is a good time to talk about copy pasting. So I grabbed this here and Control or Command C, depending which device you're using. I'm always going to say Command C because I have a Mac. Those of you on a PC, it's Control C is the hotkey to copy something. When I come in here and I Control V, which is paste, because Control P is print. I had to use something different than P. Control V, as in Victor, is print. You'll notice that it brings over the formatting as well. If you hit Command Shift V, why did that not work? Command Shift V, right? Whoa, why is that? Oh, Command Shift V. There we go. Okay, so that text that was there had formatting. So if I have got rid of everything, Command Shift V, it will paste just the text itself and not bring over the formatting. That is going to be super, super, super important when you're copying content from web pages, from other places that have styling set to the text. You 99 times out of 100 do not want to bring over the styling. You just want to bring over the content. Control or Command Shift V will paste in the text without any of that styling. So here we go. This is going to be, what is this? This is a lesson. That's a fair enough thing to say. So this is the lesson on setting up your digital environment. So lesson, set up your digital environment. Sweet, sweet, sweet. We're going to skip the break that we normally take here because we skip the break that we normally take here because we took a break earlier when my computer was about to lose power. So one of the things here within documents, Google Docs, Microsoft Word, all these programs have the ability to apply styles to text. And these styles help us to differentiate what different elements of the text are. So in this case, this is the title of the page. We want this to stand out at the top, be a little bit bigger, bolder, so we know what we're looking at. Just trust me, we're not going to use title. We're actually going to use heading 1. Heading 1, this is specifically for us that do web development. H1, H2, H3 are things we'll see later on in the course. Those are basically section headings. And we use H1 as the main section heading title of the page. So everything we're doing here is from the web development lens. So that's where we're going to use this heading 1 versus the title. What is cool here is we can go ahead and still adjust the styling of this content here. You know, the size and the color, we can adjust all that. But if we ever come back in here and hit heading 1, it should. Ooh, it will not update that. So, oh, there it did. It will revert back for us. So if you ever want to change what a heading looks like, you need to change it. And then you also then need to come in here and right click on the text, format options, and then update heading 1 to match. Inside of Google Drive, Google Docs, this is a lot easier. Over in Microsoft Word, it's really cumbersome. So there's our heading 1, and now all of our heading 1s, oops, let's make it 24 point. You just want to trust me on that. Now, all of our heading 1s that we use on the page would follow this same styling, but write this down. You will only use one heading 1 on every page that you create. It's just a unwritten rule, a written rule that you can break, but you shouldn't. So let's think about this kitchen metaphor, right? The storing of things. So we're going to set this up like a file folder structure would look like. And when you look at a file folder structure, what you end up seeing is what's called like a file tree, directory tree. Folders and directories are the same thing. They're synonyms. When we say folder and directory, it's the same thing. We have a folder called kitchen. And this is what would be called the top level folder, also sometimes known as the root folder. Again, when we talk about a file folder directory tree, the root, the single point where everything kind of springs out from. We're going to design this, lay this out as a list. Let's do that as a list here. So what do kitchens have? Kitchens have a refrigerator. Kitchens, and we'll do refrigerator / freezer, right? Because most of, at least all the refrigerators I have are a combination. We also have cupboards. We have drawers. And is that good enough for this metaphor? Yeah, we'll keep it clean for this metaphor. So if we were to set up a folder structure, the kitchen would be the top level folder, and then we would have 3 sub-level folders. And inside of this refrigerator one, we could put ice cream, right? We could put vegetables. We could put, what's a third one? Milk. Milk's the same as dairy. We'll put in, don't drink soda, folks, it's bad for you. We'll put in vegetables. We'll want to be more specific than vegetables, right? Carrots. And then we'll also put in, oh geez, why can't I think of stuff? Salad dressing. There's a great one. Most refrigerators don't just have a big, huge open compartment and you put everything in it, right? If you open up a refrigerator, you'll see 2 wider compartments, and that's usually going to be broken out into the refrigerator and then the freezer. And then if we look inside of the freezer, that's where you're going to find the ice cream. If we look in the refrigerator, there's a produce drawer most of the time. And then there are door, what do they call those? Door, inside the door. What would you call those things? Door shelves, for lack of a better name for right now. We would put the carrots then inside the produce drawer, and we would put the salad dressing inside of the door shelves. This structure and this organization allows us to find things easier. Have you ever had somebody put something in the wrong place? For those dads out there that have tool chests, right? When the screwdrivers get put in with the hammers or vice versa, it makes it a little messy, right? Because you can't find what you need when you need it. For us as humans, it's just kind of a frustrating pain because hopefully it's in there. You can find it. Your kid hasn't used it to try to build a rocket ship to the moon. But for computers, what happens when it can't find the things that it needs is it will break our programs and break our files and break our web pages. So we would break down, I'm not going to do the cupboards. Well, yeah, we'll do the cupboards, right? You may have cupboard one, and we'll just call it, cupboard one, because there's no better name for it right now. We don't have any other orientation. And in this cupboard, you would have, cupboard pots and pans. Let's do it this way. You've got the cupboard for the pots and pans, and inside of here you have a pot, and inside of that you have a pan. And then you have the cupboard for dry goods, and inside of that you have your cereal, and then you have your oatmeal, something like that. And inside your drawers, you have a silverware drawer, and inside of that you have usually another divider for your knives, your forks, spoons, and then sporks. Just because anytime we can insert humor, that's a good thing. So whether you realize it or not, the way that a physical environment is set up, ideally is set up to make it easier to find what you need. Try it. Go home and move your silverware drawer from one place to another, and how much of a pain in the rear is it, right? Go ahead and start putting your spoons in the where your cereal's at. Like habitually, we've trained ourselves without even realizing it that this organization just makes it easier for us to find our things. This is what we want to do inside of our digital environments without going too crazy within the subfolders, because each of these, right, to get from kitchen to here, that's a click. To get to the refrigerator, that's a click. Into the produce store, that's a click. Into the carrots, that's another click. Now, if we were to pack a cooler, right, a cooler is a smaller container of things where we don't have as much. We might only throw in 3, 4, 5, heck, even maybe 10 things. That would work for something like this, where we don't even need to break down the names of the files. They would all just, or create folders. We could all just have them live in one place, nice and tidy. And we'll actually see that when we work on building our web page in HTML. So within this, think of it like a kitchen. And what we're going to do right now is we'll take and we'll share this out. Well, anyone with a link can check this out. We will copy this. And now we will come in here and I will paste this in. And I thought that Google would automatically transcribe that for us, so they won't. So we'll talk about accessibility right now. Even Google breaks its own rules here with this underscore and everything else. But what I will tell you, or not breaks its own rules, but breaks some of the rules, unwritten rules of accessibility. But this is what I will tell you. You should never, ever, 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 ever paste a link like this. Because right now, this means absolutely nothing to a user. The better way to do this is to take the name of the file, Control C to copy it, Control Shift V or Command Shift V to paste it in here. Then we will go ahead and share and grab the link, copy the link. We'll highlight this text. It's called anchor text. We'll get to that eventually. And then we do what's called Command K or Control K. And this brings up a dialog box in almost every single program that you'll see. And you can put the link in there. And now this link will take you to that document. Now we can see what this link is. I don't have to, because I named the file correctly, we don't even have to open it up uh, to know what's there. When I click on this, I'm pretty much guaranteed to get what I'm looking for. And if it's not what I'm looking for based on the name, I don't click on it and I save myself time. So, setting up your digital environment. Use proper naming conventions and use a folder structure to organize and sort your projects, your information, your courses in a way that it makes it easier to find. Think of it like your kitchen. All right, all right. I think that's good, right? We covered 1, 2, and 3. We put actually check boxes on this if we really wanted to, I think. Will they let us do that? Yes, yes. I think, can we check that? I'm not sure. I think we will check that. Anyway, all right. So the next piece of the puzzle here, and then we will take a break. We're going to explain version control. So if you've ever seen a file, let's go ahead and we'll just create this like this, and we'll copy this over. Explain version control. Control C. Bring it over here. Control V. Explain version control suite. Bum, 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 bum. Here we go. So if you've ever seen a file name like this, my file one dot PDF will say, you're doing it wrong. You're definitely doing it wrong if you see a file name like this, because what this means, this parentheses 1, means that at some point in time there was a file called this, myfile.pdf. What it also may mean is there could potentially be a file called this. What these are different versions of the files saved at different points in time, potentially maybe having different contents, maybe not. And you and your users have no freaking clue what's the difference between one and the other. Sometimes you'll see this. My file dash final. Well, you may also see a file like this, my file dash new. Or you may see my file dash new, right? You kind of get what I'm getting at here. None of these names have any meaning. And one thing that you will start to grasp when you start working on software development is that they have solved quite a lot of the problems that we encounter in the world when it comes to information architecture. Because a lot of that's what we're talking about, information architecture here. This idea of version control, sometimes in a local system, you do not have the ability to store new versions of an old file in that same file name. So you create a new version. It would be better in that scenario to name something potentially like this. This is what I do with some of my video projects. My file, and then the date that I save it or update it might be a better naming convention. Because at least then if I had that file and then this file here, I would know which one came first. Because you might have been at meetings where people have their paper documents and it says, oh, this is my file. Oh, this is the PDF that you sent me. And then somebody says, oh, you don't have the right version of that file. Well, how does this person know? If they print out something that you sent them and you sent something new later or you updated it yourself, how do people know? With printed paper, it's tough, but one of the recommendations here that I will do is I will come in here and I will grab the file name. I will go into the create a footer somewhere, headers and footers. I will put the actual file name. I'll also go in as well and put in the page number. And sometimes sometimes, I'll come in here and I'll say revision dates 2024-10-05, I think is the date, right? Something like that. And we're going to center this just because I like things to be pretty. We'll also go ahead and adjust the font size here because it doesn't actually need to be that big. And I'm also going to go in and put in a horizontal line just because I'm a little anal with design. And because this is so small down here, I can probably squeeze this onto one line, and I'm going to use the pipe delimiter to give me that break there. Now, what this though does, this relies on freaking humans, right? A human has to go in and change this. One thing that you'll find out when you get into software development is we do not rely on humans for anything. We try, how do I say this politely? We try to remove the humans from the equation as much as possible, especially when it comes to menial tasks, because we'd rather have the humans do more of the creative tasks, right? Renaming files and things like that doesn't necessarily make sense. Google Docs, Microsoft Docs, and even GitHub have version control built into them. And I'm going to show you how this works. This will only work in the digital space. I don't think yet we have the way to print off what happens here in a physical space. Might be worth looking into. But if on this document I go to File and I scroll down here to Version History, I can actually see the version history, and it will show me at different points in time. This is when the document was created at October 10th or October 5th at 10:49. This was the last version here that I created, and it will show me what I changed from version to version. What I can do here is I can also, under File and Version History, I can name this current version. I could name this First Draft. I maybe save it as First Draft because I'm ready to share it and get some feedback on it and all that kind of good stuff. I'll want people to know exactly what it was. I may, because I actually named this First Draft instead of the date, maybe First Draft and the date, right? Might be better. But if we're only going to work in the digital environment, I don't really need to care too much about this, other than the fact if I know some folks are going to print this off and use it, I probably want to have that information in the printed form as well. But now if I go back to version history and see the version history, you'll see here, this is First Draft. We could go ahead and restore this version, and this is what's great. So let's say we go and have a document, we make a bunch of changes, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing, and it's messed up and we got to go back. We can actually go back to any of these versions and restore that version. But you'll see here now in this one, this new 1109 one I just created, you'll see that what was changed, and you actually see the strike through. That will be super, super, super important, right? As documents evolve over time, we should be able to track and see the changes and who made those changes, and that's what version control does. So if I download this file, download as a PDF, we'll put it in my documents folder, we'll put it in my learning folder, right? Because this is where it should go, Introduction to Coding Bootcamps, we'll save it. There you go. Lesson, blah, 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 naming convention. It did put in an underscore here. So we should probably, in our file names up here, we're going to get away from using the colon in the file name, and we'll just go with lesson here. Now, I wish that there was something, and maybe there is, I don't know all the everything. I wish there was something we could do here where this footer would actually update based on file name and our version history. That would be kind of dope. Google, if you don't have that yet, you probably should. All right, so now if I come in here and do another download PDF, it will be with a different file name. That's fine. So save that. I should just go away. I want that to go away. There we go. And now when I go to file, and this is what's important because this is where you humans have to freaking be diligent about this. And you go to download PDF, you'll see it wants to freaking put that parentheses 1. But you don't need that parentheses 1 in this situation because your original is stored in the cloud. And even if you were to sync the cloud in your local, you would still be able to get through this version history through your local computer as well. And this PDF that you're exporting, go ahead here, get rid of that parentheses 1, save it now, replace it yes. And as long as you're being diligent as much as possible with this footer information, you go into a meeting, everybody has the document printed out. They're looking at version, half the room has version from 10.04. You're talking about version 10.05. Half the room does have 10.05. You say, everybody, we're looking at this document here. Some of you are saying, hey, my document doesn't have that. Oh, look down at the bottom. What version are you? What does it say down at the bottom for the version? I got 10.04. Oh, I'm sorry, you have the wrong version. Here's your new copy. Or go to the link online because that's where the current copy is. This idea of version control is something that we'll talk about over and over and over and over and over and over again as part of this process. So, all right, folks, we finished off the first 4 bullets here. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. I probably shouldn't have stopped. Let's go ahead and here we'll share my screen again. Take a look at where we're at right now. Where's the presentation? Here's the course presentation. Boom, shalak, lock, boom. Setting up an effective work environment. We've talked about that, both physical and digital. Naming conventions, we talked about that. Best practices for how to organize files in the digital environment, we talked about that. And we just kind of talked about version control. You're going to get much more practice with all of these things, especially these 3 right here, as we continue into the next section of the course, which is designing a web page, plan a web production. All right. So we're going to go ahead and do that next. So I'll come in here so we know where we're going to pick up from on this presentation. Boom, shalak, lock, boom. We're going to add in a section header, just like kind of an outline would work, right? Design a web page. And that is where we will pick up next, folks. I appreciate your time. We will be back here. For those of you watching online, we will be back here in, let's say be back at 11:30. We will be back at 11:30 Eastern time. There we go. All right, folks. See you in a few. Course here, courses here, and it says in folders. This is where we're going to put the information that we need for this specific course. Now, one of the most All right, folks. I think we are back. We're going to go ahead and continue working on this Introduction to Coding Bootcamps course here. Again, I'm Mike Vanderpool, aka Get Good Dad. That's kind of my handle here. When I do stuff online, you'll see my YouTube channel and other things like that. Let's not even engage with those people. Doesn't even matter. The internet's an awesome place right now. Okay, so where we left off was we had talked about setting up your digital environment, how you organize things, kind of using the kitchen metaphor for that. We talked about naming files so that you could find them later. And now we're going to talk about designing a web page. So, a couple different tools that we're going to look at here, but foundationally, what we want to look at is a tool called Figma. Figma is a tool that will help us rapidly prototype web pages faster. So figma.com. This is free. You can use this for free. And you can see here, I've got a whole bunch of layouts that I've used in the past. We've got my pizzeria. Let's go ahead and take a look at that one. I did 2 years ago. Holy mackerel. Excuse me. So what's cool about Figma is you can actually like prototype your sites, click around, do things all before without even writing any bit of code. So why oh why can't I get to the actual why can't I get to the actual design on that, huh? Let's see here. Oh, there it is, because this is the sorry, the presentation of it. I got to go back here. It's been a minute since I've used this thing. We're going to go back over here into the design. So Figma is pretty cool, but basically what it's doing here is it's allowing us to drag and create elements, to add text, to add images into what's called a mock-up of the way that our website is going to look. So let's go ahead and take a look at a website right now. I graduated from Bowling Green State University, so let's go to bgsu.edu. This is what your typical web page will look like. There will be a menu bar up top with these drop downs. These drop downs are, again, if we think about like our folders and organizational structure, this is where we can see some of those same principles coming through, right? I do not have to click on any of these things to know what I might find underneath them. Right? There's the arts and sciences stuff. Under research, here's the stuff for the Center for Family and Demographic Research, all because things are named properly and organized in a way that makes it easier for me as a user to find it. Why did they create these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 different buckets? Because if you count the number of links here, this would be overwhelming for somebody to see on a single page by itself. So the top will typically always be a navigation bar. The next thing that we'll have is what's called a hero image, or in this case, it's a video, but it's a big, huge image. Am I sharing my screen? I'm not actually sharing my screen. I always do that, so I'm going to start over. Oh, Snapdragon whistle pop. Oh, it's so funny. I knew I wasn't sharing my screen. So this, we'll go to the BGSU webpage here, and this is where you'll find what we want to do is take a look at this layout as we get started. So up on the top, you typically have some navigation. And again, this is where you'll see we have groupings based on like things. And this is where we can then organize and find things a little bit easier, just like when we talk about organizing our kitchen. Not just files and folders, but also information on our web pages we can organize in this fashion. Because if we had all these links just in one big, huge page layout with no real organization here, it would be harder for users to find them. You'll often see a search bar inside of web pages to help you find stuff. Clicked on that. You'll also, most of the time, see these big, huge images and or videos. These are called hero images. Big, huge, attention-grabbing image or video right at the front. You scroll down, and one of the things that I want you to notice is as you scroll, you'll almost notice that what does this look like? As you scroll, it's almost like individual slides of information. That is a big, huge concept as we think about what we're doing here with building websites. When we build websites, we're building presentations, but instead of clicking through vertically or horizontally on slides, we're scrolling vertically through them. So every web page, not every web page, but the vast majority of web pages will have this top bar that'll have the navigation structure. Then you'll have this hero image. Then you'll have sections of information that play like slides in a presentation. And then at the bottom, you will have this footer. So one of the tools that we would use to design a web page is something like Figma. This is relatively complex in what you're able to do. You can also create prototypes with it, which is super, super cool. Uh, if we scroll through here, you'll kind of see each of these elements we're able to change the color on. We can come in here, change the text on things. This is probably a little bit too complicated for us getting started. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a web page for these classes that I'm doing. But we're going to go as low fidelity, what they call kind of low fidelity as possible. And we're actually going to make it using Google Slides. So this will be kind of fun. Now, I'm always going to recommend that you start from a sketch. So let's go over here into the course. This file name should update for us. Yes, there we go. If we refresh, there it is. I'm going to go into new, and I'm going to go into, oh geez, we'll go to draw.io. I haven't played with this one in a while, but we'll see what happens. We'll go ahead and let's just create a blank diagram here in Google Draw, and we'll call this website layout, website-layout. We'll see what happens. Where is it going to save? Google Drive. We'll pick a folder. This is a separate program, so we're going to authorize this to be able to do this. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Already has some access. Here we go. And we're going to put it in the learning folder. Then we'll put it in the course introduction folder, introduction to coding bootcamps, and we'll save it there. Sweet. So what I'm going to do here, this is going to be really low fidelity, right? I'm going to grab this rectangle. We'll put this in here. And what we're going to have up top here, I think if we double click in there, this will be our navigation. Then we'll come in here, we'll draw another rectangle. This will be our hero image. Then down here, we will have our section of classes. And then this here, we're actually going to divide this and maybe have like 3 different sections here. Why is that doing that? What in the world? Do I hold shift? Doesn't, how do I not make it go? Is it a rectangle? Can I do it that way? Yeah, rectangle, there we go. We'll come in here and we'll actually go ahead and do 1, 2, like that, like that, like that. That'll be our section for our classes. Can we make that text go near the top, maybe? We should be able to, but for right now, I really don't care. Let's just go ahead and do this. We'll have our sections like this. That'll be good enough. And then down here, we'll have our footer. All right. One of the things that you're going to want to do is you'll want to start sketching low fidelity. And by low fidelity, we mean with limited detail. If I'm communicating with somebody about what I'm going to build for them, we can talk and we can have words in the air, and I can see a completely different picture than the other person. So the best thing that we can do to come to alignment and an agreement, understanding what we're going to build, is we go through here and we'll just sketch something nice and simple. And that is what this process that we go through, it's really the design thinking process. We'll go through, we'll meet with the client. Hey client, what's your web page? What are you trying to do? Well, I've just got 3 classes I want to offer. I need to keep it simple out of the gate. I don't want to have a lot to manage. I want people to find what they need and be able to find me. I also want to make sure we've got their attention. Okay, sweet. We're going to go ahead and do some simple navigation up on top. We'll do a hero image of the classroom. We will show a section with the 3 classes that you're going to have, and then we will put in the footer. And that's where your contact information will be. Sketch it out like this. Is this cool for us to get started with? Dude, this is awesome. This is great. Let's meet back in a week and we'll actually go through and talk about what it looks like in a little bit more detail. So what we have here is a low fidelity sketch, and we're going to translate this into maybe a little bit of a more high fidelity sketch. So we'll come over here and now we will go into, we're going to create a new presentation. And we're going to do this for the presentation because it works. You just have to trust me on this. So we're going to come in here and we will create a blank page. All right, blank pages are nice. And what we'll do is we're going to draw a rectangle. I think we can do that from here with a shape. Boom, 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 boom. Maybe shape, rectangle. Let's get rid of this stuff over there. Those themes, we don't need those. Please don't ever use those themes. Please don't ever use those themes. What's nice here, right, is Google wants to snap for us. There we go. There we go. What color scheme do you want to use? Oh, I don't have colors for my website. Oh, shoot. We got to go get some colors for your website. Okay, so we're going to go to coolors.co. Ah, no. Is it coolors? Yeah, there we go. Coolors.co. I will accept the cookies because who cares? They already know enough about us anyway. We'll start the generator. Let's go. Let's go. This color palette's good enough for what we're trying to do. You come in here and you can lock some of these colors. Ooh, I really like this blue. Everybody likes the blue. We'll come in here, hit the space bar, and it'll regenerate a color palette based on that color blue. And all these colors should kind of play well together. Now, what we do with these beyond that, we'll talk about that later. But for right now, I can grab that hex code and I can come up in here and I can make this custom color, and we'll make it that blue. All right, and now in here, we're just going to go ahead and what's our navigation going to be? Let's say we want the navigation to be right your home page, then you want classes, and then you want contact. And in order for us to be able to read that, we have to be conscious of contrast. I'll show you a contrast tool here in a second, but we'll go ahead and why can't I change the font color? Border color, that color, where's my font stuff? Here it is. I like to hide it. There we go, and we'll make this bold. Cool. So for contrast, we're going to go to WebAIM, and they have a contrast checker. Now, contrast is super, super, super important for accessibility. Basically, what this means is that people with disabilities, we'll just say that, can have access to our content. So color is a huge part of the equation because the contrast between the foreground and background is definitely impacts readability. So this is awesome here. WebAIM, great resource. My best advice is maybe check this out, dig deep into this, and would definitely be worth your while for anybody who wants to build websites. We will go deeper into this at some point in more advanced classes. We're going to come in here, we can put our background color, and what you'll see here is if we had a blue colored font up in front, how ridiculously impossible it is to read. Even people with 20/20 vision, like this is making my eyes hurt, right? We'll come in here though, and we'll just make this white, and what you'll see is the contrast checker now passes. The darker, right, it's going to get harder to read and starts to fail. Large text, you can get away with less contrast of the color because the size makes up for it. But ideally, when we're building, we should pass all three of these. Normal text, large text, and graphical use in an interface. WCAG stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Too deep of a conversation today, but just know that by law, you're required to create accessible content, especially if you're building anything for the government or education. It's also just the right thing to do so that more people have access to our content. Now we need a picture of people taking classes. I'll show you where you can get some great pictures from. Pexels is a site and the source that I use. We'll go here, we'll go class. We'll go with technology class. Here we go. We got stuff like this. Not very technology. Free images, sometimes you get what you pay for, right? But Pexels usually is a pretty good spot to get started from. Oh my goodness. Let's just do this, computer class. Finding good images is one of the hardest parts about this whole thing. So there we go. There's our folks. I'd like to get some multi-generational images here, right? All right, we're just gonna go with design. We're just gonna go with, we'll look up design, see what we can come up with. All right. Oh, this is perfect, right? This picture right here. This is actually a sketch of a web page, right? Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we're gonna go here and we're gonna download this picture. One of the things you want to be mindful of when using images is that size does definitely matter, because there's three things that you'll pay for forever when it comes to dealing with the internet. Two of those things are important here. Number one is the size of files, because the size of the files relates to how much storage you need, and you'll pay for storage for the most part. And then for transfer, and when you talk about transferring data, the size of those files, that's the data that you're transferring. The more data you're transferring, the more they will charge you. So in this scenario here, because we want to use this image for the hero image, we're going to want to go with an image that is large. We'll have a whole entire different class on image sizes and resolutions. I'm going to download this file. And where am I going to put this file? Now is when we have to start thinking about a lot of different things. We're going to create a new folder here, and this is going to be our website. I'm going to make it lowercase, website. And I'm actually going to put my last name on this, because then I know it's mine, at least for right now. And that's fine enough. So now we're in this folder. And just like our kitchen, we want to organize it in a place where we can find our forks, we can find our vegetables, we can find our cereal. I'm going to create a folder called images, and this is where we're going to store our images. Now, the file name here, pexelspicjumbo.com, a whole bunch of numbers and everything else, this means absolutely nothing. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to rename this. I'm going to cut out the name though, because we'll use that in a second. I cut out the name, and I'm going to rename this web page sketch. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the size of it, because now I know that this is the web page sketch image, and that the size of the image is 1920 by 1080 pixels. Again, I don't have to open this file to know what it is, nor do I need to open it to know what size it is. So one of the things that will be important when you work on projects here, right? I'm going to come in here now. Here's my course. Let me go and upload this folder, see if we can make it happen right now. Upload. And there they're uploading. Okay. It doesn't like to upload empty folders. I'm going to create a folder, actually a file in here in my images. I'm going to create a document, and this is going to be called my image sources. This will be where I found my images. So this is my hero image. And how you set this up doesn't necessarily really matter, but there's my hero image. And I'm also going to provide the link to where I got it from. This is super, super, super important, especially when you start building web pages for other people. You want to make sure that you have the rights to use those images and you can track those images down. Now, just because a picture is available on a website that says it's free to use does not always mean that. But that's, again, another course, another time for us to go deeper, because we could get way too deep there. But all of the images for our website here, we can actually then identify what it is, where we got it from, which will be helpful. Now, if I want to put this image inside here, image, insert image, upload from the computer. And now, because we have this organization here, we can find this image super easy. And we'll go ahead now and put this image on our page. You'll notice that this is on top, layers. You'll see, even though we're working in a two-dimensional spacer, you have layers. We're going to go ahead and do command. Actually, we'll just do right-click, order, and we will send to back. And now our image is behind. If we double-click on this inside of Google Drive, we can do a little bit of cropping here, which allows us then to also move the image and position it. Again, for the mock-up, probably doesn't matter too much, but right there, if we scroll through, that is going to be our home page. We'll probably want to come in here and add some text, right? Let's add a text box just in here. Take cool classes. The contrast is really, really horrible. We're going to do two things here. We're going to change the font color. We're going to make it white. We're going to make this bold, and we're going to make it a lot bigger, a lot bigger. You will sometimes struggle here putting text on top of an image for a few reasons. Number one, images tend to be high contrast. So this image here, why can I not click it? This image here, what you may notice is that if we were to take this text and put it over this image where it's white, there's not enough contrast here. The C and L, hey, this looks great. The CLAS looks great, but the SES doesn't. High contrast images are really tough to put text over, which is why finding like text that can do something like this, where you have big splotches of relatively low contrast areas, is going to be great. Now, I'm not super pleased with how this is laid out, but we've already taken probably too much time on this. So then the next section, again, I'm going to go back and look at my sketch, right? I don't want to just use my brain here. I want to actually help my brain by looking and referring to my sketches, because these sketches are what I agreed to my client with, right? I'm going to come in here now and I'm going to go ahead and do a plus. This will give us a new slide. So we'll slide into this new slide, haha. And this will be another section. And what we want to do in this section is we want to make the text come in here. We're going to make a section heading up at the top. So we'll draw in some text. And this will be classes starting soon, and an exclamation point, because everybody loves exclamation points. We'll center that text. We're going to go ahead and make this bold, and then we'll probably make it a little bit bigger because we'll have the real estate to use it. And then we'll take this and we'll drag this. What's cool about Google Docs here, Google presentations, they have a lot of alignment stuff. And I'm going to go ahead and change the color on this to match. There we go. You can barely see it, but it's there. And then we have our three sections. Boom, 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 boom. Come in here. Section one will probably be both an image, will definitely be an image, and then it will be some text. So there's where my picture is going to be. And then we will come in here and do a text box underneath it. We'll want those things to align as much as possible. Kind of drag in here. Google does all this like kind of aligning for you. I really like it. And I think if we come in and drag here, we can actually make these things. You'll see where they want to make them the same size. So one of the things with design that is important is alignment and sizing, and having things. Oh yeah, there's a text box there. It's just nothing in it. One of the things that is like equal spacing and alignment, all is super, super, super important for making a nice cohesive design. Another thing that you'll use when you're designing websites is you may not always have the text that you need. We're going to use something called Ipsum. Ipsum is basically placeholder text, also known as dummy text. And you may have seen this, but it's just lorem ipsum. It means absolutely nothing. We'll just come in here and we will paste it in. Yes, it's way too big. We're going to go ahead and we'll make this a 16-point font, and then we'll just trim the fat here. Why 16-point font? It's really one of the better fonts for font sizes for readability. There's some other issues in here with the text. We're not going to talk too much about it, but it's okay for now. You can always come in and fix this. This is all just for demonstration purposes. But what this does, especially when you're talking about like a mock-up, what you don't want to do is you don't want to distract from what you're really focusing on. So what is this mock-up doing? This mock-up is showing the user what this web page is going to look like. As much as possible, specifically like the colors, the pictures, and things like that. This text, we don't care what this text is, because us as the designer, we probably are just going to copy paste anyway. So we're just going to put placeholder here so our client doesn't even get distracted by it. We do need more images though. So we knew we struggled a little bit with Pexel's images for the classes, but let's go ahead in here. We'll look for more. We'll just look for technology stuff. Why not? Maybe we've got a class here on, that one looks pretty cool, right? We're going to download this. Ooh, except we don't want to download the full-size image. I mean, potentially we want to download the full-size image, and we'll do that, I guess. Yeah, we'll do this. We'll download the full-size image so we have it in case we need it. And this is going to be, again, let's grab it. We'll cut that out, and we'll call this web media class 1920. And it's not really media class, right? It's media production. We'll make this 1920 by 1080 in our images folder. And then we'll come in here and we'll say classes, images, media production. There we go, there we go. That's the image. And where did we get it from? We got it from here. Boom, boom. We'll also then, because we want to be conservative of our sizing here, we don't need a full-size image, right? Because the full-size image, our web page is probably only 1920 wide. We can get away with a smaller image here. A smaller image costs less. Thumbnails is what these things get referred to as. We're going to come in here and then we're going to download another version of this, and we'll download the small version to serve as our thumbnail. So what are we going to do differently here? Well, we will go ahead and just rename it 640 by 480. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and download 3 images because I don't know that that's truly necessary for what we're going to do right now, what we're trying to accomplish right now. Same pattern. We'll need to get those later when we actually build the full course. But for right now, what we're going to do is here we'll come in inserts, insert image, upload from the computer. And again, it's easy to find what we need because we've named things correctly. And boom, shalak, lock, boom. There we go. You can come in here and resize. Da, 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 da. And then we can come in here, and if we really, really want to, I don't know if you can make it fill a space. Nice if you could. Well, that works pretty well. All right, so next thing we need is our footer. We'll go ahead and just add another page. And then usually the footer isn't anything too crazy, right? But what we'll do here is we'll do the background. We'll select the background color. We'll actually make the background color this. And this will be our footer information. And I'm just going to keep this cheap and easy for right now, just for the sake of time. Usually the footer will have links, all that kind of good stuff. But really cool classes. The physical location, right? 123 Main Street, Toledo, Ohio. And then a phone number, right? 419-555-1212. Come in here. Do not worry too much, like, oh, that footer's too big. We may actually put more stuff in that space. And again, we're just using this presentation here to be able to show off a little bit about what we've going on. Are there better tools for this? 1000% there are, but at least for where we're at right now and as beginners, I think this does really a good enough job of being able to communicate to a client, to somebody, what we're going to build for them. I don't know why it doesn't want me to move this. It should be easier to move stuff. And then maybe, you know what, just for whatever, we're going to draw a line here. If you hold shift on most programs, it'll let you draw a line kind of straight across. We'll make that line white, and then we'll just move that line somewhere down here, and that's going to be our footer, right? So what is my web page going to look like? Hey, client, this is what it's going to be. We're going to have a navigation bar up at the top. This is the hero image that we're going to use. Oh, that's a great image. I love it. Sweet. We roll with that. Oh, that's a horrible image. Okay, we'll go find something else. What are you looking for? Here we go. This is the section on classes. What are you thinking? Oh, this looks great. What's that text down there? That's just placeholder text because you're going to end up giving us the actual description of the courses. Okay, cool. I'll put that on my list. And then down at the bottom, this is the footer. Oh, this is really nice, though. You know what, though? We need the logo. Okay, do you have your logo? Well, they're still working on it, tweaking it. I'm like, okay, sweet. Here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and throw in just a little placeholder here. And we will put some text in here. This is where your logo is going to go. And then we'll take these two things together here. Boom, shalak, lock, boom. And we'll just move these. There you go. How's this look for you? Does this work for you? 1000%. This is beautiful. I love it. Sweet. Can I get your initials on here so it's okay? Yep, here you go. Here's my initials. Then you actually have something that will be binding to when and if you ever get into a dispute about what you were supposed to build. You now have visually communicated the design of this web page to the client. The client and you have had a conversation to come to a further agreement on what you're going to build, refined it a little bit, and then you are going to get that client's initial to say that they approved it. Because do not, what do I say? What does Vanderpool say? Words in the air are meaningless, folks. You have to 100% trust me on this. Words in the air are meaningless. Everybody can nod their heads at words in the air and have zero freaking alignment. You need to create a physical document where everyone can see what you're talking about and improve on that, because this will stand up in a court of law, which some things end up being going down that road. And you want to make sure that you yourself are protected by having the initials of your clients. So what did we do? We designed a web page. The next thing we need to do is plan a production. We will actually do that when we introduce GitHub next, okay? We're gonna take a break though. We are gonna do lunch. We'll be back in about 30 minutes. And we're actually gonna take a 45-minute lunch. We're gonna take lunch here and we'll be back at 12:45. So everybody, I appreciate your attention. Thank you for checking it out. And we will definitely, when we get back, we're gonna go through and we will plan a web page production. We're gonna introduce you to GitHub here. And then we'll actually get into building our files. Actually, probably gonna have to do this in 2 parts now that I think about it. But that's okay. That's okay. That's why we do it like this. This is all part of rapid prototyping. This is all part of figuring stuff out. And you know what I'm going to do? No, I'll leave it up. I'll let us stream this whole thing because we can cut that out later. Here we go. Taking a break. We'll be back at 12:45 Eastern time. Appreciate everybody's attention. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will do it all again soon. See you after lunch, folks.